Now, where do I apply? This is the most one of the most obvious questions, because if you're going for bachelor's, you need to have a list of colleges to apply to, and you can obviously apply to India and abroad. So I have just put down a list of a few colleges. In India, you can see there's Jamia Millia Islamia, University of Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Amity, University of Mumbai, Ashoka, South Asian Shivnadar University, and Jindal School of Affairs. And there's a lot more, honestly. But I think the more you research, I would like to tell you that every university has a different module in international relations. So you have to research every university's modules, so as to get an idea of what you actually want to study, and it doesn't have to be something, very definite, because if you want to explore, if you want to go through a lot of modules, or go through a lot of, like, you want to study security, but you also want to keep trade and economics open, or you want to study theory, so you just need to pick a university or pick universities to apply to that have the best combination of modules somewhat that you would like to study, that are also broad but at the same time give a specialized or enhanced, you know information about what you really want to study. So that is very important, I think, before you apply. And all of these also, international relations as a bachelor is not always, you a course as such. There might not always be a BA in international relations. There can be, parts of it, or the course could be called something else as well. Diplomacy, governance, all of this falls into international relations. There's just a difference between political science and IR, but international relations entails, obviously, governance and policy making, also diplomacy greatly. Universities abroad. Now, these have universities from the US and the UK. I personally have studied in the UK. I'm studying in the UK, but US, I've just jotted down the top universities, which include Stanford, LSE, Imperial College, Princeton, Georgetown, Geneva School of Diplomacy, which is really good. It's based in Switzerland, University of Edinburgh, University of Manchester, King's College London, School of Oriental
In fact,
Language.
Dhanashree, there are some of, I think you would also apply to some of these universities.
Yeah.
So you're already aware of its, reputation. And also, Ashna and Avina, I would definitely encourage you to look at some of these universities. We've also briefly spoken about it, but definitely Geneva School of Diplomacy, Leiden University, SOAS, Sciences Po in France. These are some of the universities that you can just generally go through for your research, and you never know what you come across or what clicks. So definitely this is something that can be considered. Yeah.
Yes. And the modules at all of these universities might be different again, but they are very, very interesting. So if you have a look, if wanting to do IR or not is something that would come later. If you just go through the courses, if you just go through the websites, they are very interesting, and the modules are interesting. They might just interest you and, catch a string with you. So you should definitely go through these. Um, how to apply? This is something that we all feel lost. Personally, I did not feel as lost as one would because of my wonderful counselor. But there is a few very important, you know, a to-do list that you want to tick off. First of which obviously is, and it might be again different for US and the UK, but most of it is very similar, even for your bachelor's degree. So language requirements are the most important, and you'll have to give IELTS for the UK and TOEFL for the US. And you might, there's a certain, the scores or the minimum scores for both the exams are different. It's, I think, 7.5 for IELTS, and TOEFL, I think it's 4. I'm not sure, but yes. Official transcripts after you graduate, your 10th standard, your 12th standard, or all the transcripts that you have, that would be very important, your mark sheets. The statement of purpose. This is the most asset, the most essential document entailing an overview of your academic persona. One's SOP should be strong, giving a pitch as to why they would or should be admitted and what their strengths are. Now, this is your first face value in front of the university that you're applying to. Be it any course, be it anything, this is always going to be the first impression of yours. So it has to be really good. It doesn't only need to be your academics, and it has to be what interests you. And that is, I think, one of the most important parts of your application. A good CV showcases work experience, research, and internships in line with the course that they wish to pursue. References and letters of recommendations from your academic and professional mentors, or your teachers, could be your professors, which you would get with due time. You can definitely ask them for recommendations. Financial details in line with the fee structure. That is something that you can work on depending on what you want to do. If you want to take a student loan, or you want to apply and you have a self mode of payment, it differs from coast to coast, from person to person. And that is something that's probably one of the things that you can think about when the time comes. Keeping a track of scholarships while you're applying, this is very important, honestly. um, Once you There's two types of scholarships, and you would definitely get to know more about this once you start applying. There's internal and external scholarships. Internal scholarships are the scholarships given by the universities that you get into, or that you are applying to. So um, these you have to apply differently, but also, or sometimes with your application itself, you just need to put an application for those. An external
Also,
scholarship.
adding to what just Dhanashree shared, in some of these cases, when you're applying for your bachelor's, let's say you will not need a professional LOR, but definitely an academic LOR is
Right.
something that you will need. And scholarships also, like Dhanashree mentioned, of course, there are internal and there are external. But in your case, mostly external scholarships are available mostly for master's students. For at an undergrad level, you will be able to find a lot
Mm.
within the university, which is very merit based. So they will consider your academic score, your leadership, your community engagement, and other aspects while giving it out to you. But most of and of course, like I've mentioned in my previous country research workshops also, US is more, let's say, generous in terms of scholarships. In the UK, you might not get the kind of funding that you're hoping for, but Canada, again, some colleges have great scholarships to offer. So you will know more as and when you start applying. And right now, we are all in an exploratory stage. So the idea is to just soak in as much as we can so that when we're applying, we can put all of this to use. Yeah, Dhanashree.
Yes, exactly. Career opportunities. Once you I personally think if you're graduating from a good university, and with a lot of things on your plate, on your CV, it doesn't have to be a lot, honestly. It has to be only the things that you're really interested in and that can actually apply to the places you're applying. So if you, be it completing your graduation from India or abroad, you can get jobs within international organizations and governments. This is to do with the governmental roles more than the private roles. That is because you get jobs within the civil service roles, and these would be, and there's again a lot of sections within the civil services, or within, while applying to the governments, there is every other uh, what do you call it, there's a lot of, I don't know the, yeah, okay, so there's a lot of places that have economics, that have roles to do with economics, policies, and again trade or security, and all of these things combined within civil services, combined within governmental opportunities that you can apply to individually. There's a lot of research roles within government organizations, so you can apply to those as well. And it isn't as difficult as it seems, honestly. If you have a good profile and you have a good it shows that you've been working on your profile. Even within the UK, there's a lot of civil service roles that are open to Commonwealth nations, and within India, of course. But India has a different functioning of civil services. You have to give the examinations. So in within India, the jobs that you would get would definitely differ from the jobs you'd get abroad. But there's obviously some governmental organizations that do hire, you know, graduates who have worked in who have an experience of international relations and research, and getting into these jobs would enhance connection and interaction, and they're more to do with organization and the administration of how certain policies are implemented. The non-governmental organizations and charity, uh, you can get research roles in NGOs and other charity foundations and protection of human rights, or within all the SDGs. There's obviously a lot of fields that promote different kinds of roles, like funding. There could be the economics, the political side of keeping track of the politics of the NGO. And again, there's multiple roles that you could apply to within that field. And the last one is masters and a research degree and the philosophy of thought. So you, after you're done with your graduation, you can definitely go for a master's if you want, or you could, and once you're done, you could take the academic field, is what I mean. You could get your master's done, you could go for a PhD, you could go into teaching and professor, you could go into academic administration and research analysis and political theory, basically, or any kinds of theory. You could be writing books, you could be studying or assisting in research. There's a lot of roles within administration, academic administration as well, but that required a PhD. So that is also something that you could think about. How to prepare. There's now, as you are young and you have a lot that you can do. So that I've just jotted down a few things that you can maybe work on side by side, that would just help you in the future while you're applying. Now, because it's international relations, your CV has to have some work experience, not in terms of, you know, a job or anything such, obviously, but in terms of internships or small projects or volunteering that you can take in. Like you could work with, there's a lot of think tanks in India. There's I've mentioned some, like Ilzina House, Global Youth Organization, the Confederation of Young Leaders, Center for Policy and Research. You could apply to these, and it's very easy to get into. You just need to send them your application and what you're interested in. They'll train you, they'll raise you up into the research field or whatever you're applying for. And having a little it having an internship like this just helps you build perspective on what it is that you really want to do, whether it's research, whether it's logistics. It helps you understand the field better. You could I think it's you might have a lot of MUNs and student union activities going on given in school, so you could definitely participate in those, and I think you definitely should, because it's having a role and having any kind of a portfolio or any rank, if you could, within your school union activities, student union activities, and participating in MUNs is a huge boost to your CV. Work in research roles that promote an understanding of policy making and implementation. Now, while you're looking for internships, you could look for roles that actually help you understand these things, because it is something that comes into practice more than research. So you could look for that as well. I have mentioned a few podcasts here that you could listen to. Uh, you could go through all of these. Um,
Yeah, in fact, Ashna and Avina, if you want, you can take a screenshot of this slide and maybe refer to it at a
yes.
later stage. There are some books and movies and podcasts that Dhanashri has recommended. So
Yes.
definitely have a look. Yeah.
And I would also recommend reading the news as much as you can,
And as
because
much as you hate,
yes, as much as you
because
hate, it's really
there are
difficult. to be competent
Yeah.
with
And
that.
with the changes that our country is going through, of course, there are certain things that we just, don't want to listen to, don't want to watch, but we will have to. And by the way, that's also the beauty of social sciences as a stream, as just there is so much and it's all interconnected. There's nothing you study in isolation. If I am a sociology major, these are some of the things that I have also studied in spite of just having sociology as my major subject. Then Ashri had history in her bachelor's, but there was still portions of uh, governance, leadership, policy that she's covered. So that's why I think this field is so intriguing, because there's a multidisciplinary approach to everything. There's no right or wrong when it comes to a field as broad and as beautiful as this. It's There's a perspective behind everything.
Yes, exactly. Which is why it's very aesthetic as well. You can definitely, yeah, so go through the podcasts, read news, or if you don't want to read, you could just put on the global news podcast or any podcast that has international news in it. uh, and there's a few books that I've recommended as well. These are the books that are it's a broad section. You can also look at a particular section of history. You could look at the politics of Russian Revolution or French Revolution, industrialization, post-colonialism. It's your choice, whatever interests you, honestly. But you just to get you started, these are the few books that you could read, and also there's some introductory books on international relations available online. You could just look up Introduction to IR, and you'll find a lot of books. Movies. I'm not sure. I'm sure you might have heard of a few of these, but there's a lot more, and there's a lot of series as well on Netflix and other platforms. Volunteer and intern for nonprofit organizations. This is an important one because when you're applying for your bachelor's, they do look at your volunteering and your charity work and your NGOs that you've worked for. So if you could get a little of whatever role, and it actually gives you a lot of happiness to work for. I think I personally, I'll tell you what I worked for. I joined through my college. I was in Miranda House, Tel University, and I joined an NGO from within the Tel University, and I worked on two things. One was the education of young children, children, poor children, and who were not who did not have the access to schools and academics. And second, I worked on the transgender documentation and policies, and how there's a lot of errors within their documentations, and why those why the errors persist. So we try to get them the identification that they required, and that is what we did. So it was a lot of fun, and also it made me really happy. And it boosts your CV as well. It's just a pro. Also, I think research is very important before you apply anywhere. You need to, I think it's the most fun part of the application as well. You just look at every place that you want to apply to. You know look at the modules. More importantly, look at who has been working and the professors working there, their backgrounds. If you could just skim through it and have a look at it. But more importantly, the reputation of the college somewhere, yes, but also the modules and the course, and how the career opportunities, the alumni. Looking through all of this will just give you a perspective about whether this is something you would want to do and where it would take you, right? So research thoroughly, have a brief understanding of the modules, as I said. Yeah, that's and the knowledge of a foreign language is always a perk, definitely. If you could, you have a lot of time. I know you have a lot of studies as well, but just for the fun of it, if you could learn any of the foreign languages, be it Mandarin. In international relations, if you know Mandarin, it's a huge perk, honestly. But you could also, but no language is ever waste. It's only great to learn as many as you can. So you could learn Spanish, French, Mandarin, or any other language that you love
Yeah,
to
in fact,
experience
I
it.
think Duolingo is a good app to get started with. Anyone who wants to learn a new language, I think that can be your go-to app. So definitely download it today, find something interesting, and maybe learn a new word or two.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, that's it for the presentation.